Okay, this video is going to explain to you exactly what street-focused jiu-jitsu is. Uh, Bear in mind, it's not a new martial art. I didn't suddenly create a new martial art. I know a lot of people say this. I didn't. Um, what street-focused jiu-jitsu is uh, jiu-jitsu. It is jiu-jitsu techniques modified to be more applicable to the modern world. Uh, the street, if you will. This is why it includes close quarters handgun training, knife fighting, stick fighting, which are already present in a lot of jiu-jitsu systems, and of course the techniques of jiu-jitsu. Some of the things I did to modify the training process draws from reality-based martial arts, draws from my military training. In the military, we have this saying, you fight the way you train. So here's the problem. If you are a reality-based martial artist, if you're a martial artist who lives here, now, in the world as we speak, as it is, then you face a number of situations that the samurai and the ninja and the karateka of the past did not. Weapons in the last 50 years have came a long way. Uh, you might not realize it, but they have. In the last 100 years, they've definitely came a long way. And what this is this system, this syllabus, I should say, draws from multiple sources. It is created to allow a person to be able to function in a realistic manner in real life situations. Some of the things I did was I threw out the ranking of belts. It trains almost like a combative system. You have different levels of combative. When you start, you're, of course, a student. You're a beginner. When you pass basic training, that first level of training, you're no longer a beginner. You're now a novice. Once you go through that intermediate level of training, you then become a novice. You have to go. You have to, basically pass basic training to quit being a beginner, and then once you to be a beginner, because otherwise you're just nothing. Once you've passed that basic level of training, you're a beginner. Then once you pass the intermediate training, you're a novice. You start doing advanced training. Once you pass the advanced training, you're an expert. Beyond that, it goes to assistant instructor and instructor. Now, bear in mind, the training for being an assistant instructor and to be an instructor are very different from what you would have in an actual martial arts school. You're not sitting there learning more techniques. You're actually learning about leadership training. You're actually learning how to lead by example, how to set the example. You do learn a few techniques that's not in the regular curriculum, but it's there. Now, the thing about this is the system itself is designed to teach you to fight from the ground defensively, not offensively. The reason for this is the goal is you should not go to the ground in a fight unless absolutely cannot help it. A real street fight going to the ground is very horrible. It's not going to be fun, and a lot of times it does involve multiple opponents. I've been in a few fights and I've seen a few fights where two guys go to the ground and guys who weren't even involved in the fight just come and start stomping on both of them because they want to get into the fight. So you have to understand that mentality. It includes psychology, avoidance, de-escalation, all these things. And what makes them what they are is that at that basic level you learn a few basic striking techniques, a few basic vital areas, a few basic throws and takedowns, a few basic ground fighting techniques, and it gives you a little bit of everything to start off with, plus the avoidance, de-escalation, the psychology. The problem is, it's not just techniques. Anytime someone tries to reinvent the martial art and they come up with techniques, there's only so many ways to punch and kick. What really matters is the training. Training is what focuses here. So with the sport jiu-jitsu, or I'm sorry, with the street jiu-jitsu, you start off learning like you would in sport jiu-jitsu or anything else in a gi. Once you got the basic techniques down, you move to the intermediate techniques, and once you get the more advanced techniques down, that you can apply them in the gi. Then when you get to the advanced level of training, you start simulating combat conditions, even though you're doing knife and handgun techniques and everything else, because just because you can take a gun away from an attacker doesn't mean you know how to use it. So we go through all of this as well, teaching you how to use the weapons at that advanced level. But you also go in there and you learn to train under the conditions that you will face in a fight. You go through different scenarios to teach you to react. The reason why we do this is because, psychologically speaking, your mind learns through association. For 99.9% of the people out there will tell you that their first instinct when they see fire is hot. The reason why is because as a child, you told not to touch the fire, you touch the fire, you get burned, fire's hot, it hurts, you associate fire with heat. Heat with pain. So you tend to get a little edgy around open flames. It's a natural human reaction. Now, the problem is, and bear in mind I'm going to make sure I got this right, so I have the behavioral psychology notes right here. It's like this. Your mind learns through association. So we learn to create associations and similar experiences for your mind to associate the correct action, the correct response, and everything else. This gives you an instinctive level to be able to apply what you're learning. This is what classical condition is: unconditioned stimulus that occurs naturally. Then you have conditioned stimulus is previously neutral stimulus that, after association with unconditioned stimulus, becomes a trigger to a conditioned response. So what I'm talking about here, when I'm defining these definitions for you, is this: you learn through association. You use an unconditioned stimulus. Let's say someone punching you in the face. It's going to occur naturally in a fight. So you learn to condition your response, which is a block, by seeing someone punch you in the face. This is one of the reasons for the 1 and 3-step drills in karate and traditional martial arts. Well, we're going to step that up a bit. Now we have you in street clothes with a person, cussing you, calling you names, threatening you, and all this other stuff that'll happen in a real fight before you line up to the actual punching and kicking. And since you're going to go through these scenarios, including just like, being attacked in a parking lot while carrying groceries to your car, that's a scenario you're going to be trained to deal with. Now, you have to understand that an unconditioned stimulus without any association creates an unconditioned response. And that unconditioned response associated with a conditioned stimulus becomes a trigger for a conditioned response. So what I'm talking about is that you are placed in situations in the more advanced level, which will simulate actual combat scenarios, actual self-defense scenarios, dealing with muggers, social violence, a whole number of different things. And you will have to navigate this using psychology, avoidance, de-escalation, or physical techniques. I'm not going to tell you how to work your way through it. They're going to be giving your simulated aggressors are going to be your OPFOR, your opposing force, is going to be given a certain guidelines on what they can and cannot do. You as a student will not have that, and you will learn to navigate and to intuitively assess a situation without having to learn all these little nuances of trying to pick up on body language and everything else through a long list of processes. We just kind of cut that down. You'll still learn it academically, but then you'll also learn to apply it, and this helps to build it on an instinctual level. This is one of the things that separates the street-focused jiu-jitsu from normal sport jiu-jitsu or traditional samurai jiu-jitsu, is that we're trying to train you for the real world now, 2011, not 200 years ago.